And a very warm welcome, everyone, to Arise Exchange tonight, Wednesday, the 3rd of January. I am Bosin Omofaye, and this is how we're getting started with a roaring 2.04% upside on the Nigerian exchange. The second trading day of the year, we've got a new high, 77,000 on the all-share index. Let me walk you through this. 846 billion naira in one single day. If you add Monday's figure, we've done more than 1 trillion naira in the first 2 days of 2024. The market moved on to a new high, 42 trillion, 420 billion naira. That's how we roll on this side, on the west coast of the continent. 10.69 billion. That's also a new high for the new year, just 2 days in the kitty. 11,629. That tells you how strong sentiments are for investors moving into Nigeria's equity. Let me show you the top drivers of today's trading day. The shares of UBA climbed a maximum 10% today as investors bought about 1.54 billion naira worth of that stock. Look at the top of the table. That's 1.31 billion in the shares of Fidelity Bank. The stock climbed by 9.65%. Then you've got the shares of FCMB, Universal Insurance, as well as Access Corp, also among the most traded. So look at Fidelity, UBA, and Access Corp accounting for a chunk of today's 10 billion naira in total transaction value. Let me take you through the top percentage drivers. Zenith Bank shares climbed 4.23%. If you consider the size of Zenith Bank as the second most capitalized lender on the Nigerian marketplace. GITCO up by 3.5%. Stanbic IBTC Holdings 3.13% in the green. Then you add these big names within the rest of the market. Dangote Sugar, one of the biggest names in the consumer goods space, up a maximum 10%, 63.25. You got Morrison Industries, and of course Berger Paints, FCMB, and of course UPL Services sector 2.64. A small cap company, maximum 10%. The downside to your trading day, the shares of NGX Group down by 1.7%. Axamansett down by 0.91%. You got Champion Breweries, the third largest brewer by market cap, 380 at 230 when the market closed down, 7.32. LLX PLC, 1.64% down. Did the rights issue late last year. We're waiting for the outcome of that. CNI Leasing, then of course in publishing, Len Africa, 9.09%. Let me take you through a very solid day on the equity side. Look at the OTC market. Quite a very solid trading day as well. The market cap up by 0.66%. That's 1.26 trillion to cruise into the new year. The NSI up by this emerging volume and value slightly down from where we were on Tuesday. 8 transactions today, just a bit lower than yesterday, where we were also on a Tuesday. So this is your over-the-counter market. This Wednesday is the 3rd day of the week, but the second trading day of the week by, of course, virtue of January the 1st. Let's go to the wider market and see your market watch for today. We have no data for today's FMDQ trading day, but let me take what will interest you. I'm sure you're looking at the bottom left of my screen. The wall here showing the Naira do a very hard fall today. After about 1.3% upside on Monday, the Naira fell today by 4.5% at the NAFEM. That's the Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market official window in a manner of speaking. That's 1,035 Naira, 12 kobo will fetch you $1 American. That's not good news for the Naira starting the new year as we get into the business week. We'll see what the rest of the week looks like. We'll see how the Naira will pace out. But of course, if you got the Bloomberg reports late last week that the Naira will see more depreciation in the new year. Is this the start of the fall of the Naira? As again, as you say, what had to translate exchange rate into what you pay for the price of petrol at the pumps. Keep that in mind. This is the Naira tonight, not a good news. But what else is making news tonight? It's your overnight lending rate among commercial men. There's no pressure into funding, as it were, to start the week. So we're still going to hear from the central bank and the debt office as far as their calendar for the first quarter of the new year is concerned. So right now, lending among commercial banks hanging around 16%. Brent crude up very sharply, 3.03%. We've got a whole lot of crisis in the Middle East, as well as the Red Sea All that in play. And of course, investors' outlook on what the Fed minutes will look like, and again, on the US inventory. So they got a whole lot here coming through with oil prices heading back to $80 a barrel, but still holding around 78.19 with this pair. Then you've got the NGX and the NSI indices all here in a positive Wednesday. Let me take this further and show you what else is making the news in West Africa. Look at the BRVM Composite tonight for the second trading day in Cote d'Ivoire. That's a very strong 214.47 for this regional exchange for the 8 French-speaking West African economies from Burkina Faso to Cote d'Ivoire to Senegal and a few others there. You got all this 0.80% for the composite index, and that's a very solid second day. The Ghana stock market still flattish, and trying to ask questions around what exactly is going on in Ghana as far as the stock market was concerned, with the all-share index remaining unchanged since towards the end of last year and remaining in that very skittish position into the start of the new year. We'll try to get some voices out of there, Ghana, for you, what's to track that. Let's get on to see what else is making the headlines for me this evening. Let's check on with the headlines stories. Again, what is this coming through today from OPEC? And non-OPEC members issuing a statement today supporting market stability via what they call the DOE, the Declaration of Cooperation, which they've signed together to ensure that the oil market globally will remain stable. It's the first official statement in the new year 2024 by OPEC and non-OPEC members. That's the news today. That came into the market, part of what moved the market, the price upside. They've got an issue which this Sharara oil field in Libya, where 300,000 barrels per day oil field has been shut down by local protesters. And that's also in play as far as oil price is concerned. Let me move on to what else is making news here on this side of the coast. Seplat Energy, listed in Lagos and London stock exchanges, announcing that its annual gas plant mechanical completion has been done. So that means that gas plant is ready to get back into business. And that's coming from Seplat Energy. Let's see how the market will react to that on this side, as well as the London Stock Exchange. Still tracking for you some of the news out of 2023. The Boa conglomerate, which of course consists of the Boa Cement and the Boa Foods and the rest in that particular family. For those of them who are listed on the market, we saw what you call a ramping up in the total value. Last year, by 2.3 trillion is the best conglomerate via capital gains you saw on the share prices of those companies. KPMG reporting that Ghanaians are reverting to saving their monies in foreign currency, whether it's in dollars or pounds or euros. They're no longer saving in the local currency, the city, because it's been whittled by the state of the economy. And finally, the BRVM has suspended trading in the shares of Evisoy's packaging CM because of non-compliance with what you call post-listing rules. You flout that, then you get a suspension on your trading shares of a listed company. That's how the rules of the market goes. Let's leave it here for now. Now let's talk about this very quickly. The Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, or NSITF, has explained that the fund did not at any time reject the 40% deduction of employers' contributions by Finance Ministry, as wrongly reported in a section of the press. A statement was released today by the fund stating, quote, that the NSITF has no such powers, as the management of the fund is fully aware of the circular on presidential directive on 50% automatic deduction from internally generated revenue of federal government-owned enterprises, end of quote. The NSITF further stated that what its managing director, Maureen Alagoa, stated in her New Year message was a reiteration of an appeal earlier made to the former Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, on the 3rd of October last year for a review of the inclusion of the NSITF in the Fiscal Responsibility and Finance Act of 2020 in view of its special status as a non-treasury funded agency holding contributors' money in trusts of Nigerian people. We'll be right back. Africa's biggest stock exchange in South Africa was one of the smallest performer on the continent in 2023. We're going to spend more time tonight talking about the market, global marketplace. It's the start of the new year, so there's a whole lot to talk about the markets as we take off in the new year. But let's get back to the commodities space. Again, oil prices and their cousins, gas and gasoline, oil in the green territory. And if you look at the bottom of the charts, you find that the numbers are all around an average of 3% from gasoline. That's about 2.93%. That's $2.15. Then you've got gas prices, of course, talk about winter period, 3.47%, roughly $3.5, $2.66. Then you come to the US West Texas Intermediate and the London Brent crude, which is Nigeria's benchmark as far as the budget is concerned, 72.65, 78.18, about 3.1% on average to the upside. Of course, this is how the market's starting the year on a bit of a better turbulent state, in a manner of speaking. If you look at equities and you look at commodities, in particular oil and gold prices, as well as those commodities, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But again, what is happening in the oil market was all about what OPEC is talking about, trying to stabilize the market, try to throw its own voice into the marketplace, as we saw the tensions in Middle East. Israel, Hamas are now spreading to Lebanon, as it were. Then you've got the Houthi issue and Iran stepping into the fray with the Red Sea corridor. Then, of course, you got Maersk Line. Share price up about 5.1% today. That company says it's likely is going to stop using that route for its vessels. So you find some of those vessels around the world moving in logistics around Africa, going around the Cape of Good Hope. So that's all impacting global trade as we speak. We're seeing a bit of that coming through. We've got to deal with that in the new year if the crisis in the Middle East and the Red Sea gets much longer than expected. Of course, OPEC new 2.2 million barrels per day cut back for the first quarter this year, kicked in on Monday, despite the fact being a public holiday around the world for the new year, January the 1st. All that in play tonight. So you're seeing oil prices heading back very sharply to the north. When these two benchmarks will reach $80 is anyone's guess. But let's take it down and look at the commodities place in metals. Of course, I spoke about gold earlier. I checked just a few minutes before coming live into the studios. US dollar, what you call the dollar index, is up. The DXY was up roughly 0.47%. So when the dollar goes up, that's a bit of a pressure for gold. So gold was shining less, but still holding that top end of $2,000 an ounce, down by 1.25%. There's a dollar pressure. Traders are holding their breath a little bit for the minutes of the last FOMC meeting of December last year, which is expected to come out later today. And of course, we're expecting a whole lot of economic data out of the United States from PMI and a couple of others to come out this week. Then, of course, you're expecting the fourth quarter GDP data from the world's #1 economy, also expected this week. So quite a whole lot that will be in play this week as far as commodities is concerned. So gold is taking a bit of a beating. It's causing the silver, the white metal, took a bit of a bigger beating, 3.35%. That's just holding it below the $23 a barrel. So if you leave the metals and we focus on the basic resources, copper, platinum, aluminum, and the rest, iron ore, and the rest of the resources that goes into basically into manufacturing and all of that. And you can also see how choppy they were tonight. Aluminum, however, is still very strong, around 2,800, not significantly different from where we finished off in the last session of 2023, by the way, 2.37% in the red tonight. Platinum down 1.87, copper down by just about 1%. That's about $384 on the counter. Those are our futures prices. Let's get on to see commodities, and it looks like it's all in a negative position. It's all red, red, red. A sea of red, largely speaking. If you take out oil prices, gas and gasoline. So you look at palm oil, that's 0.35%, 786.44. In futures prices, soybean, 1,275. That's if you are buying. That's about 0.12%. If you are trading that, that's good news for you. Corn is in the negative territory for about 0.25%. Then you've got wheat, which of course you can regard as the king of the soya, of the soft commodities, 602.25, down by 0.75%. If you're importing, you got a couple of good news there for you, by the way. And so that takes us through the commodities market. And let's get back to the equity side of things, basically for Frontier Africa. And we're looking at some of the hot stocks across the markets in 2023. We're going to do a bit of this all through the rest of this week. But let's say charity begins at home. So you're looking at some of the hot stocks in Nigeria for last year and those who were in triple-digit regions. So just pick a few of them. And this caught my attention, and that's from Transcorp. And that's it's also, of course, an NGX. So you got an NGX there. The full year for this company was 6.37%, and that's to the upside. That's one of the strongest performer on the market this year. Then you got Transcorp Hotel, which is also much bigger. This is the parent company, by the way. This is just one of the subsidiaries, but this hotel printed 1,222% last year. So if you had bought Transcorp on January 1st last year, by December the 31st, you would have made 1,022% in your investment. Wherever you want to get that, anywhere in the world, give me a call. Let me know. Or get on my Twitter, bbolson. Show me where you get this. Then you've got UBA Group. Again, you've got a full year for this bank to 37%. 0.5, and that's some of the hottest stocks on the Nigerian exchange for last year, 2023. And we talked about BUA Group earlier. Of course, they made a chunk of money, 2.3 trillion naira. That's a whole lot. Yeah, you can calculate the rest. Now let's move on to the rest of the continent, and that's the Nairobi Securities Exchange. For the full year for Umeme. Now, this is one company in the agro-allied segment of the market in Kenya, 145.55. Again, we've seen the shares of Umeme and a few other companies in agro-allied also are doing orchard, exporting tea. So technically, you got the agro-allied segment of the market in Kenya last year on the upside, and this is the star performer. The Nairobi stock market itself was down by about 27.5%. So this stock beat the main stock market by a very wide margin. Okay, let's move on to other news that we've got for you in the markets for this day. This is your trading day for today. The Rwanda stock market was 143.7, or a flattish finishing line in Kigali. The Uganda stock market up today by 0.45%. That's the market in Kampala. The Dar es Salaam market in Tanzania was down by 5 basis points. The Nairobi stock market came back 92.11. On the oil share index, 0.15%, trying to find its footing in the new year. Very particularly bitter 2023 for the market in East Africa. Let me see the top stories across Eastern Africa. Quite a whole lot to issue there. The central bank in Kenya is lowering the interbank FX trading limit to about $100,000. Of course, it's trying to manage FX liquidity. And then you get a treasury is given order to draw rules for central bank emergency borrowing. Things are pretty tough for William Ruto's administration. Marula Mining, which is listed on the London Stock Exchange, is looking to list on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. That's going to be a big news for the market in Nairobi. Bank of Tanzania, which is the central bank, is looking to address the country's FX crisis in the new year. And finally, you got Kenya's manufacturing says they're going to stop hiring and switch to imports if the costs they went through last year continues into the new year. They just issued a warning to the Ruto's administration. Let me touch the Southern Africa's trading day, and I wouldn't go without that, because the JSE is the biggest exchange in Africa, but one of the slowest performer last year. 1.8% return was what you get on the JSE last year, while you get about 50% on the Nigerian market. So, and this is the JSE also starting on a very negative footing this year, roughly 1.6% for the second trading day. We saw 22 delistings from South African stock market last year. Not a particularly sterling year for JSE among its peers if you compare the GSE with other international exchanges, such as the London Stock Exchange, which is just about 2%. Mauritius stock market better today by 0.13%, and you've got to the king of the Southern African markets. Well, in terms of local indices, if you look at that, that's the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. That's a whopping 4.31%, roughly about 2% on Tuesday. Today, that's doubled up, and you've seen that at 223,000. This is one of the hottest stock market last year across Africa in Zimbabwe. That's what the ZSE stands for. We have big names such as Delta and a couple of other names. But of course, I got some news for you, by the way, because the Southern African market is considering the GX index return was just 1.8% last year. The gross debt for South Africa is rising. The country is going for a general election in April. So keep your eye on that. It's going to be a very interesting year for South Africa to see how it's going to navigate the next political season. That is seen at about 77.7% of GDP within the 2025-2026 period. If you look at this figure and debt, as this percentage of a GDP, that's not some good news, by the way. A lot of has to have happened. The South Africa may suspend a couple of companies because they delayed their reports. And of course, this is Ariston Holdings on Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, swinging into 33 billion Zimbabwean dollars lost for 2023 year ended September the 31st. The European trading day didn't look really nice as well today. It's all negative down the line. But that's your rice exchange for tonight. Let's leave it there. A whole lot of numbers for you to digest tonight on the show. Have a great evening, and I'll see you again back tomorrow.